Welcome to One Foot in Both Worlds, keeping it real with Tanya and Nettie. And we are absolutely keeping it real today. We came on about actually half an hour ago, jumped on the Zoom, and normally we talk for a minute or two, hi, how are you? And then we go into the Zoom because most of what we actually do is done live in front of everyone. But I happened to mention that the topic we're going to talk about, Spirit was saying that we were going to mention past lives in there. I had done a past life reading yesterday for someone when I was doing some energy work. I wasn't expecting to do it, and it came in and they had said to me, you're going to talk about this. Now, that didn't really go with our topic. I mean, all the topics are kind of related. So I said to Tanya, this is what Spirit's telling you. Are you okay if I bring this up if it comes up again? And Tanya's like, yeah. Well, yeah, but I've got this thing about past lives that I just want to clarify. So 20 minutes later, we've had Spirit come in going, unfortunately, we didn't press record because we probably should have. We're both exhausted. I was dripping. So when Spirit comes in a full-on manner and it gets faster, and both of us can run pretty fast with stuff coming in. So yeah, you end up just sweating. And for someone who's not a sweater, I'm there going, I don't need this. So we've caught our breath. Spirit then started messing with our computers. We have changed. My Siri is just talking to me, which I definitely didn't say Siri, so quiet down. We are, so we're going to try and recap on what we talked about because we are both fascinated about what Spirit was saying, and it's clarified a lot of things for us. It's sort of like an understanding that we had, but it's just put the icing on the cake for the understanding.
Nettie started talking about past lives, and I was like, ooh. And the reason that Spirit won't let me sort of go into this idea that our soul carries energy from past lives and into this life where we have karma or we have different things that we actually have to work through, because spirit and soul, when it comes into the body, is clear and clean and basically perfect. So then Nettie went on to talk about a seed. So go for it.
Yeah, so when I did the past life reading for someone yesterday, I could see, so they had a massive energy ball, and we've been able to pull it down energetically to this, right? But I could see a little seed in there. And so when I was doing the past life reading for them, they were talking about this seed that actually stemmed one of the issue that they've got. And that seed is where I saw the past life. So as I went into that seed, I could bring up the image and I could do a whole past life reading for them. It made a lot of sense to where they're feeling and what they're going and what they've been able to bring through. So the question that we then started to have was, where does the seed come from? Is the seed something that's come from the soul or come from the physical? And both of us were getting at the same time, no, the physical, definitely the physical. In fact, Tanya spoke about last week about the physical coming with, and she kind of did this or almost tentacle.
For those that are just listening, it's almost like kind of like jazz hands.
Yeah, we've got our hands up and we're wiggling our fingers. It's like, and they showed us that we've talked in many podcasts. So go back and listen to the podcast about the nervous system and how your physical body and then your soul comes in and the nervous systems stick into each other. So we're showing those nervous systems coming actually like our fingers going together like a puzzle piece. And then we actually have a nervous system that talks to each other. And so if the soul
that's the physical nervous system and the intuitive nervous system.
Correct. And that's where the seeds grow. So the seeds are actually in the physical nervous system, in the fingers of the physical, right? And when the soul comes in and clicks into, it activates the seeds that it needs to at the time that it needs to. And that's where a past life comes. Now,
so then we're sitting there and I'm going, and she's going, but then the soul comes in and it goes into the body and it activates these seeds. I'm like, but where did the seed come from? And like, this doesn't make sense, because a soul can go into a body and then it can go back up, it can reincarnate into another body. And I'm like, but all these bodies are actually different. So what they ended up showing me, and I've kind of understood this before, is that it actually comes from our DNA and our cellular makeup from the genetics of our family, and it happens in the womb. So I would get cellular, let's say drowning trauma, because that's the example that we were using before, where someone will just innately have sort of this fear of drowning, and that will actually be from 5 generations down my line, but that actually moved in my DNA and in my cellular makeup. This is the best way that I can explain it. I'm not a scientist, but I found that absolutely fascinating. And then it went in to explain that how Nettie said, how the soul comes in and it can actually activate those seeds, which will then sort of end up being like a trigger or something that's happening in your life. Because it would always irritate me, and I think I said this earlier, is that, oh, well, this past life and this thing's coming in for me to heal for, you know, from my past life before. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that, because this is something that has to come in and actually be healed in the physical, because it is in the physical when these sort of seeds are activated.
Yeah. And so we hear the word, your soul chose your body, right? So that the soul is very aware of what's going on. And the soul, depending on their contract, will actually choose the body that's going in, so that when they connect, they can activate the seeds that they need to activate to deliver the contract of whatever they have to do. So these problems and issues that come up in your life, they were seeded there on purpose. Now, one of the things they did was a warning, and
thanks for that.
Yeah. But I think it's important to give the warning. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And one of the things they said was that if we spend time, now Tanya and I have spoken about this a lot, about spending too much time in medication and too much time chasing. So what they're saying is, if you're chasing this all the time, you're constantly going back in, you're trying to look within yourself to find, you know, your purpose and to find your spirituality, like to be in touch, more intuitive. What they're saying is that you can go in and activate the seeds when they're not meant to be activated. So your spirit's pretty cool. It'll not get you off the track too much, but if you want to fast track it, if you want to go in there and not stay and tune and listen to and trust your soul and your intuition, your path, you can steer yourself on one of the paths. We've always talked about, there's the destination, there's several paths to get there. You can fast track a path and really get like pushed around with this, or you can actually think that you're getting closer to it, but in fact you're going a very, very, very long way around to, you know, being aligned. You're actually not aligned by trying to be aligned,
because you're going too much into trying to dredge up the past to work through it. Would you agree?
Yeah. So you're delving into these past lives. You're getting someone, you're either doing it yourself, or you're getting someone to go, oh, I want another past life. I want to know what else, you know, and you're going and you're activating all these little seeds when they're not ready to be activated. And all of a sudden you're just like, oh shit, this is happening, but I'm not equipped for it. I was meant to be doing that in 5 years or 10 years, or I was meant to have these learnings as a physical being before I got to there, and you're not. So you can just get punched around and you realize, I'm actually not any more spiritual than I was. Yes, I've learned to meditate. Yes, I've learned to go in and find this. Yes, I've learned to do that. But actually, it's not my soul's purpose that I'm actually aligning with. So yeah, I think the underlying thing for this is that your physical body is so, so important. Don't leave it to spend time with your soul, if you know what I mean. Start to work with it. And you're very good at telling us that throughout the whole podcast.
Excuse me.
When you need to sneeze, you need to sneeze. That's your physical
let
body.
your physical body do it. Don't try and be all spiritual and meditate your way out of a sneeze.
Although we all tried to do that in COVID. So we're like,
but interestingly, I was down on the beach yesterday and I got a lovely sunburn, but I was listening to an audiobook, and then I saw this one. It was called Osho. And I remember having a dream many, many years ago where it said, seek Osho, Osho. And I was like, who the hell is that? And I didn't actually know. Anyways, yesterday I come across this book, and he sounds like he's like of South Asian descent, like East Indian, South Asian is what we are more politically correct to call it now, and just based on his accent. And anyways, he's talking about, it was about tantra, but it was talking about balance, and he was talking about spirituality. And he said your churches and your other religious places, he said those are all false, they're just symbols. Those are the things that are actually keeping you asleep. They are not actually awakening you, because you're not actually going into this place of knowing and knowledge and understanding and having your own experience, right? So to me, the Spirit's showing me a bit of a parallel there, where you're deciding that you know what in your journey needs to be done, because likely it's like marketing. People are telling you in order to sell a product. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying past life readings are bad. I am not saying that. But this is what Spirit's saying, is that you're being sold a product, that these are all the things that you have to do in order to reach enlightenment. But all it's doing is actually keeping you asleep. It is not creating a deeper sense of spirituality. And
They're
one thing
almost
that,
tangible distractions.
yes, yes, that's distracting you from actually, and I've said this so many times, moving through that human experience. Because whatever it is that your soul ends up connecting to with the body and triggering what we're calling a seed. Interesting that religion has a mustard seed, right? Have you heard that saying?
Yes.
But say it triggers this seed, that is going to come up for you in the physical. And it's in the physical, in therapy, in meditation, in relaxing your body, in sometimes medication, or who knows what it is, but it's in the physical that it actually has to be healed, not in the spiritual. It's not as much, and you can go into sort of the bigger picture, but the way they show it to me is that it's the body that holds this. And when the soul connects to it, that turns it on. So it's not that we have to go back to our soul and be like, what awful things did I do back here in order for me to be having the experience that I'm having right now? That's not how it actually works. So this was, I was like blown away. I just thought this was so cool. I have never had it explained to me like this. And that's what I love, because you and I are only talking about what we're told.
Yeah. And it's really
By
interesting
Spirit.
because that discussion that we had, and I really wish we had a recorder, because it was.
I really wish we did record too. We won't do that again.
Yeah, because what was happening was, it was like you were getting A, I was getting B, then you're getting C, D, E. Like on our own, we would not have been able to come to that point. It was really a kind of a ladder building of
block.
The idea. And it was just really wonderful. I must say, when we get really in the flow of the podcast, when we are in line 100%, I forget that I'm not in the same room as you. And it's interesting because when Tanya and I finish a podcast, we take our, and we talk for 5 minutes at the end, we take our things out of our ears and start to move around. And then we realize that we're not in the same room. And I literally, when you were talking before, I forgot. And I could see myself sitting across the table of where you are. And I was like, oh, I'm not there, I'm here. So
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool. But when you said, I just need to point out with past lives are really important. They wouldn't put these seeds there unless they were really important. I think the issue is that they're not needed to be sought out all the time. So if you get stuck, they are one way that you could see someone who actually is a past life reader, to see whether the soul is going to actually activate that seed for you. So if you go and get a reading done, like I did energetically, I was no intention of giving this girl a past life reading. We don't do that. Mind you, just before she went in, she had got a message herself that she was going to get a past life reading, and she's like, oh, that's not what we do. So it was actually her soul preparing her, as well as mine. Just when it came on, it's like, this is what we're going to do. That was not planned. She was not seeking it. She was doing some general energy work to help her with an illness she has. And then this past life popped in. So don't think that you need to go chasing these things. Like, when they're ready, the opportunity is going to come to you. And it doesn't have to have someone like me doing a past life reading for you. When you sleep, subconsciously, your spirit may give you this in a dream or something like that. It'll activate it in your body anyway. So don't think that past life has no relevance to you. They wouldn't be there if they didn't. They're very important. They just don't need to be chased. And I think that's what Tanya and I are trying to say.
Yes. Two, understand that what we're just learning is that past life sits in the physical body based on your physical generations, not based on your soul.
Yeah.
So yes, souls can reincarnate, go in, that type of thing, but there's two different, actually, they're showing me there's two different things. You can be picking up energy, like you can pick up in a past life reading about what happened in a soul in past lives, but what we're talking about in healing, past life healing, it's from your physical. Yeah. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I think the thing that's important to remember is it's like an ocean, right? We're all a drop from the ocean. We spoke about that last week, and then an eighth of that comes into our body. What they're making the difference is between our soul, which is all our souls are interconnection as one energy. When we're born, our physical body just comes out within itself. Yes, there's energy and stuff, but the seeds that are with there and the learnings that are with that are meant for that body. They're meant for that one person. Yes. And the contract of the seed comes in. So the physical body is sought out by the soul to come in and do this. I've got 5 sisters and 2 brothers, right? We all had drowning issues when we were born. That's what we spoke about briefly. Tanya mentioned drowning off camera. So we hadn't even really gone near water, and we all had this issue of not putting our head underwater, or most of us anyway. Not all of us, most of us. So as Tanya mentioned earlier, that got seeded from my mom, where we were born. The cells between my mum and my dad, somehow between those 2 genes, we came out there. My mum mentioned when she was young, she nearly drowned. And she said her grandmother nearly drowned as well. And so somehow that stuck energy has come into our physical body. I did a past life reading with a very, very talented lady. She did one for me on drowning. And then I also did some work myself on going back in on drowning. And interestingly, a couple of my sisters were saying, oh, I want to go in the water more. I'm trying to learn to do this. I'm doing this. So that stuck energy that got seeded within my own thing was still energetically able to go through my soul into theirs. And I was working on their stuck energy at the same time as mine. So that's a next level, that your soul is important to be connected, but your physical isn't necessarily connected. So there's it's quite complex.
It is a bit,
yeah.
Yes.
And we're giving a very kind of human brain understandable solution to this, because that's all we don't understand any more than that. So yeah, we're trying to translate something very complicated. Yeah. So
other readers that I will talk about sort of, like prior to coming into the body, you'll have a contract, that type of thing. And I'm trying to understand or have them show me, because it's almost like the contracts are the seeds.
Well, the contracts are the seeds, right? They're gone into that body for that reason.
Because the body has those contracts, and the soul has to connect into it in order to activate them.
Yeah. And so they choose that body because it's got those seeds now, I don't know why. That for me is the big question of why. I've seen when my dad died, go up and do a thumbprint with his body, which is really interesting now. And it was like that body, that physical body, they were showing me that physical body's contract is done. Right. That makes so much sense in what we're talking about.
Oh my gosh, it does now.
And I was like, his soul isn't finished. That body, that physical body with its nervous system and its seeds are done.
Is finished.
Right? Now,
and what they're saying though is what they're showing me is that everybody, as these activate and as you move through this, it moves forward into having less of them.
Yes.
Only if we deal with them on like life on life's terms. You know, we actually work through these things as they come up. And what they're showing me is that a lot of people are taking spirituality to a level where they are not actually working through these physical contracts that need to be worked through because they're avoiding them.
Yeah.
And they're using spirituality as an avoidance tactic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I mentioned to Tanya, I'm getting these little mini kind of things coming through each day. And one of them was actually on this. It was on avoidance. It was like distraction from what it's really, and you almost hide behind more spirituality. Like you join another energy circle and you listen to another podcast and you work on this and this. Spirit has put you there. They're ready to activate the seed. And you've gone, oh, I might just check over here because I want to get better at meditation. I might just check over here. And they're like, the seed is in front of you. Your physical body's ready for it. You're there. Stop going somewhere else. You know, it's like avoiding your homework. It's like, yeah, but I just might get another snack. Or I might go for a walk. Should we put the bin out? Yeah. You know, you're not even doing fun stuff. You are avoiding the fact that you know you're there. And yeah.
But there will be an avoidance also of emotions. So if I'm angry, I need to feel my anger. I need to be angry. Because that's how you get through it.
Yeah.
If you stuff it down with meditation and convincing yourself that you're okay with what happened and switching it around in your head to be like, yeah, it's all good. You're again avoiding your seed. Like if you're gonna be mad fully. And the only way out is through to actually do it.
They showed me a really interesting symbol. Just so you know, my husband, for some reason, gets T-shirts and he writes his own things on them, right? He loves it. It's rather annoying.
His T-shirts are very funny. He had a few when he was here.
They're funny, but we've gone too far. But anyway, I tell him that, by the way. But they just showed me a black T-shirt with this writing on it. So I had to add that because now I'm thinking, you know, in his spirit showing me his T-shirts. But it said negativity would not be necessary, would not be there if it wasn't necessary. Negativity would not be there if it wasn't necessary. So things like pain and crying and getting mad and all that, they wouldn't have made that part of the human body if we didn't need to do it. So what you were just saying then was like, maybe you have to cry to get through it. You have to like have pain to get through it. So avoiding something that is going to cause pain and causing issues and upsetting things is just avoiding part of what we're meant, like part of our path. It's like, can I find another fun way to do this? No. Like 50% of the world, the human thing is negative. You have to go through it. You've got to go through that. You've got to draw yourself away from something, or you've got to break up with someone, or you've got to you know, put your head down and work your ass off at work to get to that next step. You know, there's got to be pain for the gain. Sometimes, and other times you'll be going to spots and you don't even know that you've activated a seed because it's all like it's all, everything's going well for me, you know, where you just go, I don't know what happened, it just all fell into place, and you know, and this happened. It's the same thing. You've activated a seed, you've gone through it. 50% of them are going to be great, 50% of them are going to be shit. You got to remember the shit, you got to avoid the shit. Stop avoiding the shit is what they're saying. You know,
yes.
Yeah. Negativity is necessary. It just is.
Well, and that's the dichotomy, right? Like the duality the masculine, the feminine, the intuitive, the physical, like the intuitive is just as needed in the physical in order for them to meld together in order to move forward. So it's truly, truly about finding that proper balance. We can't sit in happiness and joy all the time. If you are, you're bypassing real life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like you just are. That doesn't mean that we have to stay in the depths of despair for months on end, but if you avoid it, you are going to be in the depths of despair for months on end.
And
you
it's
know?
how you handle it is actually what counts. So
Yeah.
like I used to always say, oh no, I live a really charmed life. Everything's perfect. It's not. Like I've had a stroke. My husband's got really sick. I was very sick. I've lost a baby. You know, like there's all these things that happen, but I don't carry the negative energy for that. So I know my seeds are not going to have to deal with it because I've been able to deal with that when it happens. And, you know, this is probably an important part. Because I did get asked this the other day, you always seem like positive. I said, oh no, I have grumpy days. I mean, Tanya and I were just talking about this. I have them too. But most of the time when I have something that is bad, I actually work on understanding the core of what it is. I actually brush through it and I don't carry that energy on any further. I don't leave a seed in my genetics to keep going. Yeah, interesting. My dad had 8 kids. So when I saw the contract end, it's interesting to know what he seeded down to his 8 children to keep going. So what his soul chose to activate and chose to pass on would be like, I would love to see that. I would love to be able to see, you know, like a light goes up and go, oh yeah, I got these 3 from dad. What did you get? To my sister? Oh, you got that. Ah, dad gave you the what? Oh, you poor thing. You got to deal with that. You know, like it's interesting to know what it is. But I think when we're saying, because I'm someone who don't understand why movies don't have happy endings. Like, you know, not that happy ending, the other happy ending.
I'll take the other happy ending. Thanks very much. If you're going to just dismiss it like that.
Yeah. So I'm like, if you've got a choice to make something, why wouldn't you just make it good, right? That's how my brain works. That's the world I live in. But the fact is that I'm the one saying that spirit is clearly telling me to remember how important negative is. And it's how you deal with the negative that actually makes a difference. How long you stay in it. Don't stay in it for long. Like find a path out of it. Go intuitively and say, okay, we're going to walk through this and I'm going to know that yes, I'm drowning, but there is an island if I do another few strokes. You know, I think that was an analogy we had in the past. Trust that the mainland is there and you're going to have some, you know, ground time for some time. So yeah, and don't just spend it trying to look within. Trust that soul is actually also, you know, looking out for you, sort of, and putting things in your path.
I certainly know, kind of still speaking on the spirituality, that there's a lot of spiritual teachings that people will misunderstand to mean an avoidance of emotions. You know, when I meditate, I lost anger and frustration and, you know, sadness, and that's stuffing it down.
Yeah.
What meditation should do is make you self-aware and capable and able to understand what's happening for you emotionally. Now, I can 110% say my avoidance is busyness. That's what I do.
Me too.
I get busy. In fact, as soon as something starts to stress me out, I clean my house.
Yeah.
Or I start a project, or, you know, and I get busy. And on some ways it's a processing for me, but on other ways it's an avoidance.
Yeah.
Because I will avoid sort of those negative emotions. And I think we're taught that, especially as women, is, you know, smile, you should smile more. Aren't you happy? You know, those type of sort of comments, or or anger is a secondary emotion. What's really underneath that? Who the fuck cares what's really underneath that? I'm fucking mad right now, and I'm going to be mad.
Let me be.
Let me be mad. Whereas there are so many people that actually can't handle it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable people are with anger, like as though you're being physically hurt or something. Anyways, I find it interesting, and I've seen it many times where it's like, oh, watch yourself thinking like that, or watch yourself looking at things that way. No, I am feeling that way. I am looking at things that way, and I'm going to let myself move through the process, because then I can get somewhere else. I can't just say, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and all of a sudden I'm happy. I have to go through angry and ticked off and sad and grief, and then I can be happy. But you're fooling yourself if you think that positive affirmations are going to do it. You're fooling yourself.
Yeah. And that there is something in positive thought compared to negative thought, that like there's, you know, we're jumping on a
very
here,
surface level, I think.
On a surface level. But the fact is that I call it a suitcase, because when I see when I'm talking to someone and they're chatting away about something, and I can actually physically see like a suitcase beside them, and it's like a locked, you know, bolted, and depending on how locked up it is, or whether it's made of metal, and those things will actually mean that they're not dealing with the shit. And so they're talking to me about this shit over here, and they're like, yeah, no, and I'm doing meditation, and I'm going to be positive, I'm going to go for walks, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, what about the suitcase? Are you going to deal with that? Because that's all I can say. That? Yeah. and sometimes I can see what's in it, and other times I can't. And it's like, okay, you can keep going on, but the fact is that suitcase is not going away. Like the only person that can unlock that suitcase is you. And that might be a seed from a past life. If you can't get rid of it, that's an option to try. But it also might just be dealing with the shit that was in it. And it's called acknowledgement. It's actually acknowledging what you put in the suitcase. And do you know what I've found when I've actually unpacked these with people is some of them put it away when they were 4, when they were 6, or when they were 10, and then they open it at 18 or 25 or 40, and they go, shit, that's not a big deal as what I thought. And so what they're doing is carrying a secret around that they don't want to look at. And in fact, often to the point they don't even know what it is. And when they start to get angry and start to get upset and start to let that emotion come around that's all packed around it, because they've got happiness packed all around it, so, and bubble wrap, so they can't see what's in there. And when they start getting through that, they open it up and go, oh shit, I can deal with that. I'm 40. Like I can deal with that emotion now. But I can see why that was still in my life. So you've actually made that stuck energy in your own life. It's not a past life. It's yours. And you're not addressing it. And you're going to go into a past life reader to try and find it. A good past life reader will see the suitcase, so you'll get it anyway. But you don't need to necessarily go into a past life. You got to deal with the shit that you're going on. And you don't want your suitcase getting bigger and bigger going, everything's happy. Every morning I wake up and do a happy dance, you know? Like,
yay, sunshine rainbows. What they were showing me is that in the suitcase is the seeds.
Yeah.
The activated seeds that require a physical and spiritual process. It requires both, but not just one, is kind of the point. It's not just a spiritual journey. It's it's not an intellectual exercise. You know, you actually have to get into the dirt of it. But what actually fills the suitcase is those seeds that are activated that we kind of pluck out and go, nope.
Yeah.
Then that's going to pass on to the next generation in the DNA and cells. I wish I had unpacked more seeds before I had my child.
Yeah. But you know what? That's really interesting, because when I did my activation for the swing, it actually affected my siblings. So I think you can actually deal with your own shit now to make sure that your children don't actually deal with that in 2 ways: physically learning, and they can actually help heal with if they've got a similar trait. But secondly, you can actually activate it through your soul. So they're connected. So we're not saying it just belongs to the physical. There is a connection that it actually opens them up. It comes from the physical, but it belongs to the physical and the soul. So, you know, like it chose that for a reason to come in there. So don't think that you can't make a difference to your you know, through that whole thing. We would be naive to think that soul isn't capable of actually activating at the same time and getting rid of seeds from other living people. So yeah,
so
that's important.
that makes sense, that anything that I heal within myself, I'm actually clearing energy and space for other people to reach that and be able to clear and heal it themselves.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean they're going to. So it doesn't mean that if you've got, like, my 8 siblings go out and one of them does this, it doesn't mean that my seed had even been activated yet to be able to heal.
Well, and it doesn't mean you even have the same seed.
That's right. So, but it does mean, I think, directly with siblings and stuff, I think about it all the time with my son. I didn't think it in this actually seed way, but I do think about things when I hear him do something and I'm like, oh, that came from me. I need to redo that better. Since he was little, I would do that. I mean, I left work because one of my first things my son did at 1.5 was shh, a minute. He couldn't even talk, and he's going shh, which was my behavior, right? Because I was a workaholic, and I work from home to be with my son, who would walk up and down the hall with the first mobile phone that they ever had, because he came out with those, and I was delivering those to Australia. And he's like, shh, minute, shh, a minute. And he thought that was good behavior. That was not good behavior. It was like, you know, and so when you see a reflection,
I taught mine to say fuck. So, you know, I think I'm worse than you.
Well, we then went on the road and his first real word was cheers. So we're like, oh, have we just turned him into an alcoholic from a workaholic? Okay.
Because I'm sitting here with this, like, you know, I've literally understood this information for the last hour, and look at me, I'm turning bright red. I'm like, I broke my kid.
Yeah. Maybe that's why we only had
a
one
lot
each.
of horrible DNA and cells. Shit.
Oh. Anyway, we
So
do laugh
maybe
about the physical things you get from each other. Like, my son had hearing issues when he was young, had lots of operations because of my husband. He had physically had them.
Okay.
And then I had asthma and all that. He got that as well. Like, all the bad shit that we had physically, we're like, oh, your dad gave you that. Your mum gave you that. He's like, could you have just given the good bit of each of you?
Yeah, no, it doesn't
work
like that. Sorry, man.
Maybe if we had multiple children, we could have, but you got it all, hun. Anyway,
you know,
they're good kids.
I find it fascinating that we're being taught this right now, because of course this type of thing is happening in my life, where as you were talking about sort of it getting activated and being from your past, they showed me back to, and hopefully I can make this make sense. Do you remember when we were talking about my relationship with Kevin and the salt?
Yes, the pink salt.
And to me, the salt was, I need somebody that's like emotionally intelligent and available, because I grew up in a home with a father who was not.
Yeah.
So I have clearly activated those seeds, grown further beyond sort of that.
Yeah.
I think I do consider myself fairly emotionally intelligent. Oh, I just lost it.
The pink salt.
And that was such a clear moment of a seed.
Yeah.
Where that decision was made. No, I don't want this seed anymore. This doesn't work for me. This activates me. This causes me anxiety, and I'm not okay with it. So I left. But that is a seed. That is a perfect example of a seed. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's a perfect example of you were at the point and you had other pathways to do, and you were like, no, I recognize that this is being activated, without knowing it's the word seed, but you were like, the pink salt, it's just not right. Like, I can see, we were showing that, you know, the balance is off. I've got it. This is going to be ugly, and it's going to be hard, and
it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt, and I'm going to go through it. And look where you are now. I mean, so much, growth. Yeah. And even growth within your own intuitiveness was from going through that hard shit. right? I don't think that, like, for anyone who can see energetic stuff, Tanya was like always massive anyway. She's like, the first time I met her, I'm like, whoa, this girl has got intuitive energy everywhere. When we came back from our break, this, like, if this was her intuitive energy, this was her intuitive energy. I'm just like, oh my God, who is this? And she's like, oh, I'm trying to look for my intuition. And I'm like, yeah, because your freaking sides are out there everywhere. Like, she had expanded. Now, I don't think you would have done that if you didn't activate that seed with Kevin. I think you would still be back in that
Do you
growth.
know how many times that seed has been presented to me in my life?
Yeah, and you didn't do it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Like, so many times. So here's the thing, that using that as an example, your life is going to get you there.
Yeah.
Whether you learn it the first time or the 5th time or the 8th time. I was probably 3. No, it's more than that, but I don't, it's too embarrassing. It's too embarrassing. But that wasn't a seed, that was a fucking boulder. That was a boulder. Like, that is a huge theme in my life. And I finally got it down to understanding it at that very core level.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think I'll go with your point.
Sorry, I was just going to say that is a perfect example of how life is going to present that to you over and over and over until you kind of crack it.
Yeah. They just showed me too, these seeds. So don't be naive in thinking you've got like 10 seeds and they're all big. So you do have big seeds, but they also showed me, like, it was like a close-up looking under a microscope, and there's millions of seeds. So yes, we have the big ones, but we're also activating. So you might come across something that's kind of like, you know, all the time, where someone where you find you get angry or abrupt, and when you get to a point where I go, oh, hang on, I acknowledge that, I recognize that, I see that intuitively, I'm not going to do that anymore, and that seed gets activated. And it's such a tiny little thing in your life, but you're constantly activating seeds and seeing seeds. So you can work on lots of little things as well that you then won't pass down. You don't have to wait for the big aha moments. And some people might have 20 massive seeds and just 1 million small ones. Someone else might have 1 massive seed and 1 billion small ones. So, you know, and then you go, why is their life so different? Because they're actually getting a lot of the little seeds out of the way. That's their job. That's their soul's contract. So remember, we're all different. So, you know, don't seek out, there must be a big seed. Like, I'm looking for the big seed. I'm going to leave my husband. He must be the seed, you know.
Life's tough right now. That's got to be it.
Yeah. Oh, life's good. There's got to be something that I've got to do.
There's a big seed lurking around the corner. Just live your life. Life will bring it to you. Don't complicate it. Here's the thing that is so funny. We are not smarter than spirit, guys. We are not. Spirit and our soul knows what it's doing. You can actually just let life happen, which I'm total crap at. But it's also maybe my next seed. I don't know. But you can just
understand. Most of this information we're bringing in for ourselves. So it's not like we're preaching to you, we're learning. We're like,
no, exactly.
I do that. All right, that's this week's task. You know, so we're
this isn't us sitting on a high horse saying, oh my God, I worked through all my seeds. Even though we just learned about seeds a freaking hour ago. But, you know, I worked through all my seeds, but make sure you don't try to control your life. Because I've done it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that was so interesting. I wish we would have pressed recording on the first time, but here we are. Here it is. I'm your living example of my freaking boulder. And do you have anything else to share?
No, they're already giving me new podcasts. So everybody, we have got some really interesting podcasts coming up. We are going to press record next time
you can actually see our process, because I think people would have found our process interesting, but we were both trying to like wrap our heads around it.
And it wasn't our topic for the day. So we were thrown a curveball in that way, that we just started to go, oh, how are we going to bring this in? It was like, so anyway, we have learned already that our topic for the day is often not our topic for the day.
Yes. So I don't know what we have next week, folks, but thank you so much for coming. This podcast is just getting better and better, in my very humble opinion. And it was lovely to see you, Nettie. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Please subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Bye.